All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Dr. Joe Vertino. Uh, a great way to start this video titled Buddhist Wisdom is with this beautiful chime. And what I'm holding in my hand, if you can see it, is a beautiful elephant Hindu deity named Lord Ganesha. The only reason I'm showing you this is the idea of this Hindu deity is to remove obstacles. So knowing that you're in good hands. Okay? So anyways, nice to meet you if this is the first time you're seeing me. Yes, to my point in this video to start with, I am alone, so to speak. You can all meet me and see me and think and feel, and I'm just alone, right? And in that way that we could say this is in response to that reality, that aloneness is an inevitability. Yeah. And so the idea of the statue and the chime is both the same. So the Hindu deity Lord Ganesh or Ganesha, that happens to be a humanesque elephant, and that's it, is a aspect of consciousness in the human collective that is renowned for that one thing of removing obstacles. And that this chime is actually a practice in Buddhism that is the answer to that intention of removing obstacles. And to connect these first dots already, just in 1 or 2 minutes, and don't worry, we will get more into, maybe we could say, the thick of it if you have an expectation for this video, which is, to be honest, I'm grateful to have that, to say confidently, meeting that need, so to speak. Very appropriately aimed, in our collective towards Buddhism and wisdom. So this chime, this noise that we heard, how is that a practice? In the sense that if we combine that one intention that we're very much clear on so far in this few minutes of this video with Dr. Joe Vertino at joevertino.org, books, music, podcast, and guided meditation, that this sound of the chime is used with only that intention of removing the obstacles, so that the mind becomes focused with this intention of purification and clarity. And just to add, part of Buddhism, a very obvious part to some people, is the idea of a cool different language for it is called ananda, but it means emptiness. So in this way that if someone was to be still, and now we get to hear the beautiful noise again with a point, and we are being still, physically, so to speak, at least, and we hear this noise, but now we're listening with the intention of removing obstacles, it becomes, we could say, a Buddhist practice. So I hope that's exciting to you. Let's listen again. So being in this place, wherever we are, fully, is something of clarity. And to tie this in further into Buddhism and all of this being wisdom, I am an example of this next point of a Zen Buddhism. So Zen, Z-E-N, a very cool 3-letter word, means to see clearly. And in that way, that's all that is, right? And that becomes the obsession, the focus, the goal of someone's pursuing life. And that in this way that being wherever you are fully, it's clear to see how that makes sense. So don't be afraid of logic generally in life, and or in whatever religion you are under, to use the right language. In the sake of compassion and understanding, empathy, and gratefulness for our minds under a certain religion is correct language, because order is really the only reason, in the sense that there's a reason monastic living places all around the world, we could say including both genders, male and female, all have a very clear, we could say, I wouldn't even say a cool like magistrate, but basically a hierarchy of order of superiors and inferiors, that sometimes we could say is based on amount of time spent in combination with success in that order or place, of that specific religious monastic lifestyle. So anyways, under a certain religion, and that can convey a sense of strict discipline, which, to be honest, I would hope that you feel impressed to give some history of Buddhism, that's a very, very real thing that has happened in human history. The combination of strict discipline, human nature at its peak, in context of just this one religion, and the pursuit of liberation, which includes and implies wisdom, and that religion being Buddhism. So I hope you don't feel too dry. And of course, I don't know how long this video will be, but feel free to grab a drink and pause it and retain this and soak it in, like a good bath of consciousness within, our realm here of personal influence. So along with strict discipline, no matter what, there's also a very positive byproduct that can last. That is the positive side of pride, says Mr. Leo, which is me, Dr. Joe. I refer to myself as Mr. Leo in my spiritual content. And certainly that sign, that personality, the associations with the zodiac sign of Leo is very appropriate, to assign that word in our English language being pride, Pride. So, and also to tie it into the beginning of this video of the inevitability of aloneness, that self-pride in the positive, authentic sense, which does come from authentic, earnest work, which is like in meditation, etc., and a clear goal is also involved in that formula, that recipe, ingredients. That pride is a wonderful boon, in context of the loneliness that we cannot escape. As life forms. So that's a lot of logic and history, a little bit dry, like I said, and, inviting you to satiate yourself and to receive this, gently, and hopefully not going down too rough. But, we could say that Buddhism in its staunchness, there's a very easy to appreciate aspect to it, that there's a reliability, a consistency, a trustworthiness, kind of like the pavement in the sidewalk, that after about 10 feet, if there was maybe some evidence that the sidewalk was wishy-washy, whether it was cracked or it was going to fall away, or we were going to slip and fall, or it was wet and not dry enough, that after a certain amount of time of normal sidewalk, you kind of get the gist of the street for the rest of the day, right? So in that way, that Buddhism can have the same effect on us, that there is a unmistakable saving quality, grace-filled essence in it. And I'm speaking, to people that are anybody, in this video. Like I said, I'm alone here, in my house with my beautiful prayer flags of the color of the rainbow with some Tibetan inscriptions on them. I have said that Tibet, the nation of Tibet, is arguably, kind of hands to the air, Italian body language, the most Buddhist nation in our world, or will ever be, so to speak. But in that way that, to my point, if you look at how easy it is to give you a little bit of homework, maybe over the next week or so of your life, to check out Tibet and the monks and the practice in combination with this fresh in your mind. Why is it so easy to take them so seriously? Because their entire agenda, generally with respect, speaking to, walking to the store and, talking to my cousin, we could say that nation having these deep roots, or the deepest roots of Buddhism, that's why. Because Buddhism our liberation is serious. And if we have a line of sight on it, that becomes kind of an all-encompassing essence or quality, yeah. So thank you so much for allowing me to educate you so far in this video. I guess we could say that's enough of kind of the logistical statistics, background of Buddhism. And, I'm elated to say that I personally am a Zen Buddhist, and that's it. So I don't have any reason to sway at all for the rest of time, so to speak, in my religious field that occupies itself fully and fills in all of the places, so to speak, with its own self, and that's it. So that's Zen Buddhism. And Zen does just mean to see clearly. So in that way, that you're of course can feel and receive this as an invitation, meaning that wherever this is leading you in your next step in on any level is appropriate, so anyways, I don't want us to have an ounce. My great prayer right now in this video of 12 minutes so far on Buddhist wisdom as a professional spiritual guide, in our beautiful shared world here in North America, I don't want there to be any ounce of I believe the word is derision, or a divisiveness, a combativeness in us about Buddhism or towards Buddhism. And so that invitation being one of, oh, okay. And that you might just sense that it's okay for me to relax, and that basically you answered my prayer. But, in that way that so far, if this was ground zero and a blank slate for Buddhist wisdom in general in your life, so far, would there be, that prayer is completely reasonable. Why would there be any problem with that prayer, right? So that's all I'm on, so to speak, besides this beautiful chair in my spinal column. But basically that, yes, so that no matter where we are in our lifetime right now, that we could say, why would there be any reason, as of what you just heard, to have any kind of combativeness, derision, divisiveness towards or around, right? Particularly aimed towards Buddhism, right? In this wonderful video, I hope you agree, of Buddhist wisdom. So in that way that maybe we could blame, with respect to everybody, says Mr. Leo, the world and its condition for the kind of maybe bitiness, energetically of the first 12 minutes of this video so far. But so in this way to share, something that might kind of resonate more with our heart. There's a beautiful side to Buddhism and wisdom, and obviously life. And some would, go so far as to say, put a lot of more words on this, but that's good enough. Of a poetry, of a floral nature or quality, in the sense of the energy of the breeze, moving these prayer flags. And if you've seen my video called My Story, I talk about when I was a child that I would practice just pure observation, to use very adult scientific words to explain a natural absorption in pure being as a child, alone on my own, without anybody else telling me to do it. And in this way, I was also brought into the reality of contentment. And that, I guess you could see my bias towards Buddhism being that child, as an adult. But we can't escape the fact that we're in the same reality together. And it's not the worst part, right? So in this way, that the one thing that we can say of maybe to romance you a little bit, spiritually speaking, with respect to all of our personal journeys up to this point, yes, that basically it's okay to allow this trust in the face of a fix-it kind of energy and attitude and atmosphere of just ourself, that we can't ever be separate from, that there's a directness, that Lord Buddha, Siddhartha Gautama, the Ascended Master, this is him. If you can see this beautiful golden statue that looks like a teepee, that is a Lord Buddha. And this is a Lord Buddha that's called Chen, which is Chinese Buddhism. Forgive me if I'm off at all. And that it's the fat Buddha, which is to symbolize having a lot of joy and blessings. And this skinny Buddha is to depict, we could say, a self-pride, even, a positivity of your own personal will, which definitely is an objective resonance, we could say forever. So in that way, I hope that you feel that you can, in your inner space, relax in the face, and I'll even give you the reason for this, which is quite poetic. We can see it as poetic rather than like militant, to relax in the face of a fix-it agenda, in the sense of we are able to set the program that there's a goal, which is called the first jewel. And then there's a way as an individual of including our understanding called the second jewel, or what do they call it? Jewel or refuge. And then a manner, so to speak, as a people, socially, realistically, which is the third jewel / refuge. So the first one is called the Buddha. The first jewel, correlated with this beautiful statue of a Buddha in this place, either with eyes wide open and sometimes bloodshot, or with serene half eyelids, and then or with eyes completely closed, but always in an alertness in that way. So the first jewel or refuge is the Buddha, which is about this, that there is a goal, and this goal is attainable. That's it, right? So, and then the second jewel / refuge is called the Dharma, which is we have a life to live, and that it is okay for us to enjoy living, thus having a purpose and a way. Okay? So just hearing me. And then the third one is the Sangha, which is, well, we're social beings. We have to be. And a community that is intentional based on the reality, apparently, of these first two things that we call jewels or refuges, meaning the Buddha and the Dharma. So I hope that translates to you, to where you are right now in your life. And we could say the reason that this is so direct is because there's a need-meeting essence to Buddhism. And the wisdom is something that is a general, obviously kind of inherited by birth. Some would say the most important possible thing of existence, of life, of reality, of the universe, of our shared world, or worlds, to put it cosmically and gracefully. But in that way, that perhaps to help us appreciate Buddhism, without any inclination in me to try and sway you right now, right, at all. Say if you're Christian and I'm Buddhist, that you can see, the truth in my hand, so to speak, that sentence, that's true. But basically, with respect to add that, just allowing yourself, even just in a purely heart-centered spiritual way, to seeing the attachment to stillness that true Buddhists have, and that the attachment that God has, to us within this one aspect of wisdom, in combination with with stillness, that I would hope that complete picture can arrive, and that there can be an appreciation, a gratefulness, just generally, in our species, so that when we do see, and that's it, right, and clearly see a person who's in this stillness, that there is an appreciation, right? and that there's a reason that my tongue is arriving upon the word Buddhism. So I'm going to attempt in this next, last few minutes of this video that have been, we could say, informative for sure. That, if you were to hire me to do satsang, to do guided meditation, read from my books, have dialogue, play music in combination, talk philosophy, talk about, healing expertise and the extremes of healing abuse, or all the way up to the lightness of being and someone who's never been injured, and all of this stuff, which is all of my work, that, to say that in that way that we do, all deserve more gentleness, that gentleness is something, a baby has to be met with gentleness, and an old person who's passing away also has to be met with gentleness. So is it appropriate for us to throw out gentleness? No. And so that's what I'm going to attempt to convey, definitely, practically speaking, in this wrapping up this hopefully beautifully interpreted video by your own mind. But yes, so in that way, that leaving space for a colorful experience of life, leaving space as it is, some would say leaving life alone. I think of as a professional author, and I just got my first book available through Barnes & Noble. My book is on my site, joevertino.org, joevertino.org. There's a section on there. The first one, My Own Religion, The Power of Love. Definitely still conveying that positive self-image, self-pride, free will, right? With that title is available in Barnes & Noble. And I was going to say that in this way, Walt Whitman, I think of, historically speaking, was renowned for doing something called loafing, in this kind of way, being naked in nature and being pointless was the point, right? And then after we've well been done with being inspired and inspiring, we are able to return to our desk and being satiated to continue our profession, right? So in that kind of way, that I hope that you understand, I'm still a Buddhist, and I'm still including you right now, and that there is a lilt, to life, and there's a flow, and that we are all still here, and that to me, going back to that point, not to be too heavy-handed, of appreciation and the openness, generally we could say is preferred rather than closed off, energy, and that being accountable for yourself enables you to do that, to pull that off every day, right? That I am allowing myself to think about the example Dr. Joe mentioned of Walt Whitman and loafing, and that, on my way home from work, that I'm allowed to basically let my mind be entertained and entertaining ideas, concepts that are in alignment with contentment, truly, that's very, very okay, and, in that kind of way that yes, prioritizing our own peace, and that you've noticed that in this, you can sense, and as we're wrapping up this video of the many, many that I have, if you, get addicted to me and my work, that's not the worst part, certainly, of the universe and its beautiful divine orchestration. But yeah, basically that mentioning a Zen proverb, there's a time for seriousness and there's a time for pure laughter. And that applies. That applies. And that is Zen, because that's seeing clearly, right? So here's the wisdom, right? For sure, here at the end of the video, if we haven't maybe smelled it out. So in that way that, as I say, my work can be encapsulated in these two phrases of empowerment, right? And that you matter. You matter. So in that way, that yes, when you're driving home from work, that you physically matter and being safe and in that way, but also that you matter in all of the levels, and that it's so okay to accept this, here and now. And that in that way, that after accepting this and hearing this, with my eyes, staring right into you, that that basically that basically it starts to come into your awareness meditation, right? And that's the best, right? That after receiving this love in truth, from a professional healer, spiritual guide, who's doing his darndest in his own skin, saying that truth, on a Buddhist wisdom video, in his own religion, in his own profession, that you're right in the middle of that. And that you matter is the most important thing, to translate outward. And that any way that affects you is great, but also you'll notice that it becomes more appropriate for me to consider, right? Something like meditation, And there's a reason that I'm very attracted and enjoying being a meditation guide, professionally. That there's a profundity to you and your path. So I hope that you feel more full. How about that? More full in a metaphysical, mysterious way. That's oh so lovely. And that you perhaps even just a tiny centimeter allow whatever this is, this experience in this video, that is the honest truth, to come just a little bit closer, to you alone, And I hope that this conveyed, we could say hope, certainly. So enjoy my swaying in my satisfaction, and my gratefulness and in all seriousness, for this, to share a beautiful Tibetan word. There's a word called prajna, Prajna, prajna. And this word prajna means the sacred wisdom which leads the soul properly to liberation. So you are included in that. So please, please, please allow yourself to know that you've taken in and ingested something good for you, good for your soul. And may you have more peace. joevertino.org. All right. Angel blessings.